requirements management. In the past class, we have discussed about requirements validation, and we have seen what validation is all about. And why do we need requirements management? We need the requirements management for the following reasons. The requirements for large software systems are always changing. During the software process, the stakeholders' understanding of the problem is constantly changing. These requirements must then evolve to reflect this changed problem view. Once end users have experience of a system, they discover new needs and priorities will evolve. The priority of requirements from different viewpoints changes during the development process. System customers impose requirements because of organizational and budgetary constraints. These may conflict the end user requirements. The business and technical environment of the system changes after installation, and these changes must be reflected in the system. Then requirements management is the process of understanding and controlling changes to the system requirements. You need to keep track of individual requirements and maintain links between dependent requirements so that you can assess the impact of requirements changes. The process of requirements management should start as soon as the draft version of the requirements document is available, but you should start planning how to manage changing requirements during the requirements elicitation process. So this is the requirements evolution process, wherein initial understanding of the problem leads to initial requirements, and the changed understanding of the problem will ultimately evolve and change requirements. Requirements evolution during the RE process and after the system has gone into services is inevitable. As the requirements definition is developed, you normally develop a better understanding of users' needs. This feeds information back to the user, who may then propose a change to the requirements. There are two kinds of requirements: enduring requirements and volatile requirements. From an evolution perspective, requirements fall into two classes. One is enduring requirements. These are relatively stable requirements that derive from the core activity of the organization and which relate directly to the domain of the system. Volatile requirements are the requirements that are likely to change during the system development process or after the system has become operational. There is a classification of volatile requirements. There are mutable requirements, emergent requirements, consequential requirements, compatibility requirements. Mutable requirements are the requirements that change because of changes to the environment in which the organization is operating. For example, in hospital systems, the funding of patient care may change and thus require different treatment information to be collected. Emergent requirements, on the other hand, requirements that emerge as a customer's understanding of the system develops during the system development. The design process may reveal new emergent requirements. Consequential requirements are the requirements that result from the introduction of the computer system. Introducing the computer system may change the organizational processes and open up new ways of working which generate new system requirements. Compatibility requirements are those requirements that depend on particular systems or business processes within an organization. As these change, the compatibility requirements on the commissioned or delivered system may also have to evolve. Then, coming to the requirements management planning, during the requirements engineering process, you have to plan the requirements identification, wherein each requirement must be uniquely identified so that it can be cross-referenced by other requirements and so that it may be used in the traceability assessments. A change management process. This is a set of activities that assess the impact and cost of the changes. Next is traceability policies. Define the relationships among requirements and between the requirements and the system design that should be recorded and how these records should be maintained. Case tool support. Requirements management involves the processing of large amounts of information about the requirements. Tools that may be used range from specialist requirement systems to spreadsheets and simple database systems. The traceability. Traceability is the property of a requirement specification that reflects the ease of finding related requirements. There are three types of traceability information that may be maintained. Number one, source traceability. Source traceability information links the requirements to the stakeholders who propose the requirements and to the rationale of these requirements. When a change is proposed, you use this information to find and consult the stakeholders about the change. Requirements traceability. Information links dependent requirements within the requirements document. You use this information to assess how many requirements are likely to be affected by a proposed change. Third one is design traceability. Information links the requirements to the design modules where these requirements are implemented. You use this information to assess the impact of proposed requirements changes on the system design and implementation. This is a traceability matrix where each requirement is identified by a requirement ID 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, so on, and there is a matrix wherein two letters are used. One is D and the other one is R. This information is usually captured using a traceability matrix. Traceability information is often represented using traceability matrices which relate requirements to stakeholders, each other, or design modules. A D in the row or column intersection illustrates that the requirement in a row depends on the requirement named in the column. And R means that there is some weaker relationship between the requirements. Example, both define the requirements for the same subsystem. Traceability matrices are used for a small number of requirements, but for larger systems, traceability information is captured in a requirements database, where each requirement is explicitly linked to related requirements. The impact of changes can be assessed using database browsing facilities. Traceability matrices can be generated automatically from the database. Case tools are also used for this. Requirement management needs automated support for which case tools are chosen during the planning phase. Tools are needed for number one, requirement storage. The requirements should be maintained in a secure managed data store that is accessible to everyone involved in the requirements engineering process. Change management. The process of change management is simplified if active tool support is available. Traceability management. Tool support for traceability allows related requirements to be discovered. Coming to the requirements change management. Requirements change management should be applied to all proposed changes to the requirement. The advantage of using a formal process is that all proposals are treated consistently and that changes to the document are made in a controlled way. There are three principal stages to a change management process. Number one, problem analysis and change specification. The problem or the change proposal is analyzed to check that it is valid and the results of the analysis are fed back to the change requested. Change analysis and costing. The effect of the proposed change is assessed using traceability information and the cost of making the change is estimated in terms of modifications to the requirements document. Then a decision is made whether to proceed with the change or not. Then comes the change implementation. The requirements document and where necessary, the system design and implementation are modified. Organize the requirements document without extensive rewriting or reorganization. Changeability in document is achieved by minimizing the external references and making the document sections as modular as possible. Thus, individual sections can be changed and replaced without affecting other parts of the document. Coming to the change requirements management, first problem is identified, then goes to the problem analysis and change specification, change analysis and costing. According to the analysis and costing, a change is implemented and then the revised requirements are recorded. Thank you. This is the topic related to change.